Okay.
This is Wednesday, January 15th at 7 o'clock, CPC meeting in the Land Use Room, and this meeting will be recorded.
Okay, Lee? Just,
Lee Hamburg, Historical Commission.
okay, Lee is here as de facto representative from Historical. Right now, they're looking for members. If anybody wants to be a member of the Historical Commission, you can see Lee, and he'd be happy to talk to you, I believe.
Yes, I would.
Okay, Tom?
Tom McLaughlin, it's CPC committee, my first meeting.
Okay.
Joanne Horacek, Housing.
Susan Fox.
Beth Thomas.
Beth Thomas.
Okay. Hey, Chris Pratt, acting chair.
Dave Spina from the planning board.
Okay. And tonight we are going to be going over a few things before we get into our application. We got a little bit of business to take care of, so we're going to go through that as quickly as possible. I'd like to welcome the new members. And I do have some cheat sheets for you. I don't know if you've been through your packets. You do have some information on allowable uses for funding, but this is more of a rendered down version. Just like a, thank you. Okay. So I can just use that to look at while we're reviewing applications in the future or tonight. We do have a process that we go through when we have applications come in. They have a checklist that they have to go through. They'll go through that with us when they bring their applications forward so that we can make sure that the use of CP funding is appropriate. That cheat sheet will kind of help you figure that out. Then we have some research, I guess, that's going to help us also look at the information that they're bringing forward. Okay. I also have a paper on the funding process. You can just keep for the future as well. Probably doesn't have as much relevance tonight.
Thank you.
I think it's a good thing to have. Some of you already have this, I'm sure, or recycled it already. I like to recycle. Okay. Right now, I'd like to have us look at the minutes of June 19th. Those of you who were here at the meeting may sign the minutes. People who are not here, I would welcome you to help with any of the grammar or spelling or maybe some rephrasing, but no content. So Sue, when you're ready, you may make a motion to accept Amendment 3rd.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the minutes as they are.
I'll second. That's all we can do. Did anybody else have any comments or anything else looks pretty good? Okay. Thank you. And before we go into our application, I'd like us all just to review the draft of the available funding. We can use this to help us with our decisions on where money will be taken from tonight during the application process. And the way we use money is when we get money in, 10% goes to open space, 10% goes to historical, and 10% goes to housing. The rest is unreserved. That way, the money in the unreserved can go to any of those as extra money during an application. Housing has a lot of money to spend.
I know. And I was thinking about that too.
Can build a house.
Veterans.
That'd be great.
I've been talking to a lot of them.
That'd be wonderful. You talked to Dave Sutton?
Yep.
Good.
Well, I started to. I got sick,
Okay.
so.
Yeah.
And a couple other guys too.
Great. Okay. Right now, I'd like to call up our applicant.
That make a little room, Mr. Chair.
Yeah. Okay, today we have the select board with their application
Squeeze over.
for the use of funds for alum treatment on the Congamon Lakes. Okay, and I would like us to hold off on any comments or questions. I will open it up later on for concerns, comments, or questions to the audience.
The select board voted the other night that we'd like to present a formal application to the Community Preservation Committee. I believe it's all been submitted to you for an alum treatment on Congamon Lakes. There was a letter that was one of the letters that was presented to the governor, lieutenant governor, and commissioners. Did everyone have an opportunity to
Is that,
review that?
Pass that around.
Here, in the back, if you could try to speak.
Okay, we'll try to speak a little louder.
Yeah, please.
No.
Thank you.
Do our best.
Or face this way, maybe.
Did you get that's one you got? Okay.
I think
Yeah.
everybody's got one in their phone.
Oh, everybody
I
else?
just-
Everybody has
In
one.
the back.
Okay.
I was just asking everyone at the table to read a letter that we had given out to the governor, lieutenant governor, and the commissioner. So it's a short letter, but it's very detailed. So I think it'll give the committee a good understanding of the situation we're facing.
Thank you.
Okay, so basically for people out there who are wondering what we're reading, it's a letter that highlights the need for use of alum treatment in the ponds to reduce the threat of cyanobacteria outbreak, which is a toxic algae that we get blooms every year. But right now we're treating with copper sulfate. Copper sulfate does kill this bloom. However, what it does is kind of like taking antibiotics will create strains of bacteria resistant to it. So, and that's a reactive approach. The alum treatment is a proactive approach which would prevent these algae blooms from occurring at all. So this alum treatment has been tried and it's worked very well in other places to do that. It has been used in our lake before in 1989. However, at that time, they didn't have the measurements correct. They didn't know really how to distribute it. So it was less effective. It was effective for a while, but not as long-term as it could be. They're saying now that this alum treatment could last for between 15 and 20 years. So it would pay for itself over that amount of time, I believe, instead of treating with the copper sulfate or a big bunch up front, which would prevent any of these outbreaks from happening. So in short, that's the basis of it. If we do get an outbreak that we don't catch in time, what would happen is the lake gets shut down for the rest of the year because you can't treat it at that point. It's beyond being able to be treated. So it has its natural die-off period in the fall. So for whenever it happens, and we've had it early in the year. A lot of times it's the warm weather that brings it on. That we've had it as, I believe, early as May. I think we've had some algae issues. Is anybody out there that can speak to that more? LMC committee or? So if it happens in May, that's a long summer without a lake. The lake does bring in revenue to the town, so we're also looking at that as an issue for not just the people who live on the lake or the people who use the lake, but also to our tax base in town. Okay.
I think you did an excellent job. And you're going to save me a lot of time.
Okay.
We were trying to get some of our resident experts here tonight to go over some of these in details. We're very fortunate. We have some great volunteers on lake management. We got Dr. Eric Muller, who does a fantastic job for the town, preparing different reports. And if everybody, I think everybody has a copy of this report. Mm-hmm. Okay. This really hits home in layman's terms what we're facing. Like Chris said, the last time we did an alum treatment was '89, but technology has improved greatly. So this was a project that was being pushed last year, but it was pulled off because there was a thought that we would be able to get state funding and wouldn't have to come in front of the taxpayers. But the select board feels it's important that even though we're not stopping, we're still trying to get federal or state funds. We'd like to put this application forward. We'd like to go forward with a special town meeting so that we can treat the lakes in April at the optimum time. If the warrant article will be worded in such a manner that any additional state or federal funds that come in will reduce the amount we're requesting. We're requesting approximately $600,000.
What was that?
$600,000. Carl, did you want to go over any details?
Well, the application asks for it. I think the important thing we can do is, have the committee give some sort of preliminary approval so that we could have the Conservation Commission coordinator work with the LMC and do go through a process of updating the last RFP that was done last year, where we did get bid results, so that we could have better bid results for the committee to finalize something, and then we could use that along with other funds we'll have to put aside that are related to the vote for the legal expenses and borrowing costs and things of that nature that are related. So that would be the key, would be to get really good numbers from the marketplace. And the best way you do that is go out to bid. And of course, in the application that we submitted to you, there were the bid results from last year.
Right.
So the numbers seem to be pretty good that was being asked for this year, and it's along the same lines of just the alum treatment. Not any other issues that need to be addressed,
Right.
like just the alum.
Right.
Doug, Joe, anything?
I just wanted to say that we thought long and hard about this as far as coming back to this board. This is a great pond. It is territorial waters of the Commonwealth. This really truly is a state responsibility. We're hoping that at some point the state will step up and either reimburse the town or make good to the town in some other way, or come through with funding for this project. But the timing of such action doesn't dovetail with the weather. So we know that we wanted to get this thing done this spring. The spring is the optimal time to do it. You could do it later. The results are usually not as good. So basically the selectmen just said, look, we need to get this funded and get this project done. So the fastest, bestest way is we're gonna step up, make this application to CPC, have CPC hear it, hopefully vote favorably on it. And then the selectmen will call a special ahead of our normal annual town meeting. We'll call a special so we can get that in, get that spending authorized, and then go and execute on the plan to get this alum treatment done as expediently as possible. If we were to wait for corresponding legislation for the state, if the money doesn't exist in an account today and they need to put forth legislation, even if they started today, it would be probably in next fiscal year's money or a continuing or a special act this year. The timing just doesn't work. By the time we'd actually receive check in hand or even notice that we'd have the funding, we couldn't get that treatment done in the time frame that the lakes need it. So when we really can't move the lake's time frame is what it is. When the next bloom's going to be, we don't know. It could be this year, it could be next year, we don't know. We want to get this alum treatment down and hopefully eliminate the chance of that. This is our best, fastest route to getting that done.
And it is a permitted use of the CPC funds.
Correct.
Right.
It's a
And we-
settled issue through town council and bond council.
Right, and we have also done research and
Yep.
have found other communities have used
Yep.
CPC funding for very similar processes.
Yeah.
So
And
now that question has been laid to rest, I'm
Right,
happy.
Mr. Wagner has had that experience and also using the alum treatments in other communities where he is a consultant.
Just for clarification, so people know, the rules of using money from the CPC have changed over the years. And this is one good thing that has changed, so that we are able to use these kind of funds for this project.
Right. In the past, we were not able to use monies for improvement of projects that were not originally bought through CPC funding.
Correct.
Now we can.
Correct. Just added, I forgot to mention, when I said we're still looking for state and federal funds, I was even on the phone with Representative Boldiga this morning, who's reaching out to the governor's office, even though we've submitted several letters, we've made phone calls, but we just did lose our state senator, so we've asked Representative Boldiga to reach out on our behalf. Carl
I
has
was on
had...
the phone with the governor's office too last week, and they're not under the impression they could cover this whole amount, but they might be willing to have a discussion with some other agencies within the state government where they might be able to leverage some dollars and free some dollars up. And that's why when Russ was talking about this issue earlier, if there is a warrant article that comes out of this, it can be written in such a way where if funds are received by a state or federal government, then we could offset the amount that would be net borrowed.
Right. And I think I told you last night, Chris, that the Mass Municipal Convention is next weekend. So we're going to have an opportunity to have some FaceTime with certain
Right.
individuals. So hopefully We, along with, there's been petitions, I know that the CRC has been doing some work and
Right.
making some phone calls and writing some letters, so hopefully keep doing it. And because hopefully we can leverage some money from somewhere, somehow.
Okay.
But in essence, folks, you said it, Chris, Congamon Lakes has been a part of Southwick since the beginning. It is an economic force. We do have a lot of people that live around it, but we have a lot of people that visit the lakes. We have a lot of restaurants that depend on people coming out to look at the lakes. We have a lot of fishing tournaments. So it is an asset to our community, it's an asset to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Like Mr. Moglen said, they are great ponds. It's unfortunately the state doesn't step up as much as they should. We're very lucky, we have a lot of volunteers. We're very lucky that the town of Suffield, Connecticut works with us. We're very lucky we have the CRC. So we have to do everything we can do to protect this. And another thing that's very important, the lakes act as a recharge to the aquifer. So all the work that our DPW does to try to keep pollutants out of there, and we've spent literally, because of sewers and things like that, millions of dollars to protect this lake, and we have to continue doing that.
Well said.
Can the town of Suffield add anything to this?
Now, the town of Suffield already does add things. They chip in to help with weed control. And they also put in for the copper sulfate treatments.
What about the alum treatment?
Well, it's not, again, it's a great pond of Massachusetts.
And the
And
town of Suffield, not to interrupt you, we just signed an agreement that Mr. Moglen worked on for over a year to get funds from the town that we were having difficulty getting for lake permits.
For boat patrols.
So town of Suffield has done quite a bit, and unfortunately, Connecticut is probably in worse financial shape than the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So I hear you. I think it'd be great, and we can always reach out to them. But I think what the most important thing is here, we're asking this committee to give us an okay on this so that we have the safeguard of going ahead in the spring. And we will continue working with Suffield, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, federal government, and try to get additional funds.
Okay. Does anybody on the board have questions or concerns, or?
I have one. So let's say the bill's $600,000. And let's say our fairy godmother at the state says, great, you can have $600,000. How do we ensure that those funds come back to the CPC?
The CPC funds wouldn't be used. In other words, we'd have to get that money ahead of time. Okay, we can't.
Right, we went through that with the
Right.
land acquisition. Once you make your vote and you do your stuff and start spending it.
You can't be reimbursed.
Can't be reimbursed.
Right.
Okay.
Right,
So-
and that's a settled issue too.
Right. So
That
any
is
monies we
definitely a
get
settled issue.
before, the warrant article will be written in such a way it'll reduce that amount. But if money comes in afterwards, no, you cannot be reimbursed.
However, the state could give money to the town to be put into the general fund or other budgets.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
thank you.
Yeah, that are lake related, because
It would be
there
nice.
are
That would
other,
be-
there are many other pending issues with the lakes that
Right.
LMC's been working on, strategic locations for dredging and things of that nature. So there are many fronts going on, but this is the priority.
Right.
Right.
It was the priority last year. Correct.
And I think we should be fair to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Town of Southwick has benefited greatly from a great number of grants. You know, our fire department, our police department,
Well, the land acquisition.
Land
was
acquisition,
$1
million dollars. So,
Their
I
their
mean,
share was over 2 million
So,
too to it.
so
And the
so we do
conservation
have to remember that, you know,
Correct.
I mean, they're not turning a blind eye to us, but, you know.
Right.
In fact, that's probably one of the issues why they haven't been able to give us too much more now. They've been giving us money over the last couple of years.
and perhaps there's a project down the road that potentially could go in front of the CPC, that maybe gets funded at a state level, and we get reimbursed for that. So it may not be a direct, okay, but you can't get reimbursed for a project you already did, but as the legislative process works, right? You could look at it that way as well.
Any other questions or discussion? Okay, I will open it up to the audience at this time for questions or concerns. Dennis Clark.
Is it
Can you all just stand, state your name and
75 Fred Jackson Road, is it possible for the CPC to bond for this project so it doesn't drain a whole bunch of money at once?
yes, it is. Right now, we don't have the amount of money we need in the accounts to fund the project as is. However, we do have some funds coming in.
You have the second half of the real estate that'll be coming in, and then you also have a supplemental
Surplus.
distribution coming in from the state budget closeout.
Which should be coming in
The next
this
couple of
month.
weeks, but that's still.
We don't know what the numbers are.
But it's
So-
coming, it's been voted on.
So we'll have to be discussing that when we decide on how much money we're going to be taking out, and we'd probably be doing a combination of,
Right, I would like to work with the chairperson,
so that might be to be determined,
yeah.
okay?
Yeah, and there'll be time, I mean, you know, before, you would have another opportunity to have a meeting, you know,
When would you
to
start this
finalize.
project?
Well, we'd wanna get the bids
Right
out
away.
and then get them back in, and probably sometime in April, because the
April is the optimum time for treatment.
limnologist, Mr. Wagner, had quite a conversation going back and forth with LMC, and I think the preferred time is in April. Sound right, Jerry? From your meetings at
No,
That's usually,
LMC?
yeah, Deb knows. Deb Harath.
And
Deb,
before the boating season, obviously.
Yeah.
So, which is good for, you know, people's ability to recreate, it's good for public safety from the harbor master's point of view, and it's good for economics.
How many other projects will be put on the back burner?
right now, there are no projects on any burner, so right now, there wouldn't be a
But by
project.
bonding it, that would still afford you
And we'll
the
still be
opportunity.
getting funding coming in now and again at the end of the fiscal year. So we do have more funding coming
Yeah,
in
that'll be
along the
coming
way.
April and May, you'll get the
Right.
second half real estate.
The cemetery money was already.
That's all approved.
Okay.
Yeah, all the projects that have been approved are funded.
this is.
That's all set. This
Your
is,
number of
Yeah,
funds
did
is
you
net.
look at the
Yeah,
budget?
right,
I did.
okay. Deb Harath, you have something to say?
Tree Shore Road, I am on the Lake Management Committee. We've talked extensively about this. Dr. Wagner is a limnologist, very well respected not only in Boston but throughout the United States. But also one of the important things for moving this forward quickly is that there are only a few companies that do the Allen treatment, and you need to get on their dance card, if you could say,
Right,
right away in order to make this happen.
right. So
Right, that's
that's,
why we
big
just
deal.
put him under contract in the last couple of days with a purchase order for him to be ready to start consulting with us and working on updating the request for
Right.
proposals to seek the bids, to get accurate numbers to put in front of the committee.
so hopefully the process can get started before the actual money.
Right.
Correct. It's all driven by tonight's policy decisions and votes.
Okay, so,
There's also, I'm sorry, there's also
Nope,
the
no.
mechanics, right? If you get a vote now, this evening, now that you have to put the warrant articles together, you have to advertise and hold a special to actually authorize the funding, right? Because town meeting is the only body that can actually spend any money in the town of Southwick. So, and that process has to play out. Here we are at the end of January now, mid to late January. By the time you get all that going, we are right on the button for getting that treatment in the time frame that you're talking about.
So town meeting in May.
No, we're gonna try to get a special in
March.
And so, you know, if you get that authorization and ahead of that you start doing the RFP, you can't really award a bid till you've gotten actual money at town meeting. So, right, so
Sign a contract.
that's why we finally put a stake in the ground and decided to come to this board, because we don't see the state money coming in that kind of time frame that would allow us to get this treatment done in the time frame that it needs to be done.
Does everybody realize that we did do a bid proposal last year?
Yes.
Okay, all right. And
I don't know
we
if
had two,
everybody has, I'll speak for
two
myself.
bids that came in last year.
The low bid was $515,970. So that's why we came up with the 600,000.
And I think there was also a higher bid of $545,000.
Right, approximately.
Yeah,
Right,
so-
so I, like Deb said, there's only a X number
Right.
there, but I thought, are there 6, Carl?
What's that?
6 potential bidders?
And I think we're down to 2 from what I
Yeah,
heard
think
at
there
the.
was 2, I think the different companies have merged and acquired or.
Oh, okay, okay.
So the bid that we got here is the company that's been doing the invasive lake treatments over the years.
Okay,
So
Solitude.
there's a good comfort level with the people, everybody knows everybody. And the limnologist knows the people that do this work, because he's regulating them and monitoring them and all sorts of other lake projects all over the other communities that he serves.
okay,
So
thank you.
hopefully we'll get cuts on the dance card. I don't know.
Frequent flyer miles?
I hope so. Okay, Michelle Pratt.
Michelle Pratt, 152 Berkshire Ave, President of Citizens Restoring Congamon. I wanted to start by thanking the Select Board so much for being proactive in regard to this. There was a news story that didn't give them credit. I want to make sure they get the credit for that. We've been working very closely with them, as well as the selectmen from Suffield, the Lake Management Committee, DPH, and Chief Bishop as well, because this is something that affects our entire town, and we can't underscore enough the importance of keeping this lake running, keeping it operable, as they said, for so many reasons, for recreational purposes, economic purposes, and health purposes. And CRC is 100% in support of this project. We definitely, as they've already said, we echo the sentiment of wanting this funding to come from the state, being a state body of water. But as they said, we just can't risk not being able to do it now, not being able to prevent the possible closure this summer. So we have to pursue this alternative source of funding. And as I mentioned, in 11 cities across and towns across the state, they've used CPC funding for this type of thing. So it's absolutely precedent's been set, and it's allowable. We want to encourage everybody very strongly to contact your state legislators and really push for this. It's the squeaky wheel that gets the grease. We've been told that by politicians that come to our meetings. So there's information on congamon.org where you can go and get more information, everything that they said a little bit more about this problem, but also the contact information for the state legislators so that you can reach out to them. We can't underscore enough how important it is to make our voices heard. But thank you all very much too. Thanks to the new members coming in, and we hope this passes through.
Jerry Crane.
Jerry Crane from across the pond in West Point. Sounds like there's a lot of pieces that have to fall into place. I think this team here can make it happen. I can sum it up with one word. It's a no-brainer. We have to do this. We have to do it. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else?
Agreed.
Just a quick question, James Davenport, Berkshire. Some of the stuff I read online was saying that alum treatments are more effective with the influx of new phosphorus that has been kept in control. Any comments on that? I mean, first of all, thank you guys for doing this. This is awesome.
Right.
But are we positioned to have this be successful?
Right. I'm also chair of the Conservation Commission. We're always trying to remediate the influx of phosphorus into the lake. The DPW has put in sewers around the lake. They've also done drainage around the lake with deep sumps to clean the water before it infiltrates. A lot of things have been done. Mr. Fox has already told us they spent millions of dollars in town on doing just that. So we're in, I think flyers that go out to homes around the lake saying, please don't fertilize your lawns on the lake. Those types of things, I think, are imperative to make sure that this is taken care of well. The alum is used at a deeper depth because it's not as effective at the shallower depths because the water gets stirred up there anyway, and your phosphorus will be stirred up into the water at the shallower depths. At the deeper depths, it will almost cement it to the bottom, if you want to think of it that way. So where the water is still is where they're gonna apply it. And that's another good reason to use it early in the spring when there's not as much boat traffic on the lake. So,
One other quick question. Filamentous algae, do anything for that?
what's that?
Filamentous algae, the green.
So this will also help with that. The copper sulfate does not help with that. But this will help with that. That is disgusting. I agree. Yes. Yeah, because that does keep the phosphorus out of the water. So it'll help with all of the algae growth in the lake, not just the blue-green algae that you have the cyanobacteria.
Just to add to what you said, Chris, we are working with the Army Corps of Engineers on potential dredging of opening up the canal in Great Brook. And you mentioned other nutrients getting in there. We're under stormwater management now. Town of Southwick is going to be spending close to $1 million over the next 5 years to meet that requirement. That's a federal unfunded mandate. But it is going to require streets to be swept more often. It is going to require all catch basins to be cleaned out more often. And it is going to require that eventually we're going to have to test every single outflow in the town of Southwick, every single outflow. And any potential thing that is found would have to be corrected at some point. So all these things are going to help to make sure that Congamon is kept clean and our aquifer is kept clean.
Right, those changes started in the last year. We do have a new stormwater coordinator under the DPW that is addressing that stuff now.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. So discussion up here then, we'll come back to our table. I think this is a great project. I think it's a good use of CPC funding. Something that I think needs to be done as chair of the Conservation Commission. I see this as imperative. There are a lot of other boards that see the same way. So, I would like to support this endeavor and work with Carl on the funding aspect of it. But in order to do that, we would have to come back for another quick meeting. Hopefully we can all make it back, maybe. How long do you think that would take, Carl?
It could be like 3 or 4 weeks, because
Or
the important thing is to have
if we decide tonight,
is to go out to bid.
Right.
we need a decision tonight to allow us to go out to bid. The funding source that we're going to utilize, we would have to come back and vote on again.
Right, that would
at
be
another time.
As long as the chair's, authorized to do that, that could be, a vote that's taken at a meeting later on. The important thing is for you to empower him to do that. So then he would work with myself, the select board, bond council, or town council in drafting those
Right,
necessary
then we would come back
votes.
here to vote on.
At the end, your say is gonna be more important than attending a town meeting. Because
Right.
when you go to town meeting, you're then a legislator and you're voting to appropriate money. You're not just a voter, you're an actual legislator when you go to town meeting.
Except Jerry from Suffield there, I don't.
Yep, not allowed. Although
My God, so.
he's been to town meetings, so.
And he's more than welcome.
And he's spoken at town meetings, but he can't vote.
So it's really 2 actions you wanna derive, the securing of updated bids and the authorization of the chairperson.
Okay.
Chris, what impact is bonding going to have on this project as far as cost? Is that going to
So as far as
5%, 10%?
Well, we would have to find that out. And
What is your gut impression, Carl?
Well, this could be a smaller length. It's gonna depend upon whether or not it stands alone as a state house note at 3 to 4%, or whether it gets rolled into a much larger borrowing. So, it really depends upon how other things come about for their votes and how it all aligns as a package, like we just did the last package we just awarded. It was a little over 2%.
I think the bottom line, though, is we're gonna try to come up with something that's in the best interest of the taxpayers.
Yeah.
All right, that's the bottom line.
Right.
And
And the way
we
we
can
look
go,
at
we can go into details and all that, but the bottom line is, working with Carl, working with town council, bond council, we're gonna come up with the best package to present to the voters of the town of South.
Right, so we want to look at all that information to see, those might be the determinant factors to decide how much we're going to bond for and how much we will take directly
And
out
the
of the
length
fund.
of the bond.
Right.
The length of the bond.
Right, which can't
And
be
in
more
this
than
case-
the length of the life cycle of the asset.
Hopefully,
So which
20
we know
years.
is 10 to 15. So you can go out 10 to 12 years, I think was Ken Wagner's number, so 10,
Okay.
12, 15.
I thought it was 15 to 20.
That's, I've heard 15 to 20.
15 to 20.
Right.
Right.
But bond
Probably
council
do
would
it.
have to take the most conservative figure.
Right.
So that's, to get your best rate, you're gonna go with the most conservative figure. So, again, I don't think we wanna muddy the waters, going into this, because the bottom line is, we're gonna do the best for the town of Southwick and best for the voters and the taxpayers.
Okay.
I have a follow-up question. Will there be any copper sulfate treatment this year if we go ahead with the alum treatment?
Hopefully, we won't need it. The copper sulfate is used as needed, and we, as the Conservation Commission, do give LMC, because they do all the testing, and when they do have a bloom and it needs to be treated, they go right away and treat it. And as far as having blooms, yes, we do have blooms every year. There are blooms on the lake. It's just that we
I'm
catch them
aware of
on, we
that.
just catch them on time so that we don't have to shut the lake down. But they do occur already. It's
So-
already happening.
I do have a question. So this alum treatment, how long does that last for? You said 10 years?
Well, what I've heard is between 15 to 20 with their new scientific method of how they disperse it and things like that. So hopefully,
We just wouldn't
12 to
vote.
15.
Right, we don't need to
Like the
vote.
bond, right?
Right, we just need, yeah. But still, even though 10 years would be awesome,
Right,
you know.
right. So it's kind of spread out. That's
Right.
Well,
It's not
I
like
mean,
one shot. and
degrade
you're
after
dead.
600,000 in 10
Well,
years.
yeah.
I mean,
That's pretty good.
Well,
But
and-
again, it's a proactive approach.
Right.
Not a reactive approach, and it's an insurance policy that we're taking as well.
Right,
And-
it's help you, because long-term, maybe the opportunity to dredge might come into play.
Right.
But the length of a note, you want to be careful about going too long out, because then what happens is you have a lot more interest than you really want
Right.
to have.
So there's a,
Yeah.
where the lines meet.
And I think Dr. Mueller, you know, when we had our discussions with him, in a perfect world, if you had 20 or 30 million dollars, it could dredge everything and get all that sediment out of there.
Bring us
did
back
say
to year
something.
zero.
Because this is a natural process for
Right.
lakes.
Right.
And Dr. Mueller,
Our lake is 14,000 years
Right.
old. Glacier Lake, it's been filling with muck for 14,000 years.
Correct.
So we have
correct,
What's
a
that?
lot of phosphorus at the bottom.
right,
Eutrophication.
right.
Yep,
There's our science.
you got it.
But we
Okay.
don't have 20 or 30 million dollars.
No. Well, you can play the lotto. I
I'll buy a ticket
Okay.
tonight.
Everybody in town has
don't know.
it.
Okay, and another important thing is, you know, we're not going to be raising taxes for the people of the town of Southwick. This is money that's already been paid in, so we're not going to be incurring any more debt in town for that, for their tax base. This is all through CPC funding, and the money will be coming from already raised
Yep,
monies.
earmarked money through your tax bills.
Okay? So if anybody is in favor of making a motion?
I'll make a
or
motion
To,
to bid, to set the bid, set for the bid.
okay, allow me to work with Carl on,
Yep.
on funding source for the bid. Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, I'll call it unanimous. So we are moving forward with our alum treatment process.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
don't we have to- I got you. has to be approved, so you just do it as
Doing the
one?
bid, so they can send out.
We're going to come back for the approval of how we're going to do the disbursement. So we still have to do that.
This is just for them to get up.
Do you have anything to say?
So, right, but I mean, we were deciding
Okay.
that we're gonna be working with Carl and.
Are you gonna be nice?
So yes, that was kind of the motion.
So what I'm saying is, I thought there would have to be.
For better or worse, Tom.
I'm not too good.
I know I talked to you.
It doesn't really, I mean, you can come to the meeting with Charles.
Yep.
He's the one that wants to meet with us.
You've got the George Hughes place at this point?
Yeah, we've been there
As long as
for,
we know that we're coming back here, so you're looking at decisions and how that's going to play out.
George Hughes
Because that
was
still has to be part of the process.
custodian when I went to school
So
here.
I think.
Yeah, I remember George
I know,
Hughes.
I loved it.
Oh, yeah.
And they'll talk to me and say, what do you think?
This is the only school I ever liked.
And they like.
And then we come back
And
and
what was the reason for that?
Well, I think if I was
We got a member of the public who wants to make a comment.
Come on up. Just functional, come on.
He was an awful guy.
Public comment phase yet?
Huh?
Are you in the public comment phase?
We can get there, sure. Have a seat. We are still in session, so if you have conversation, please bring it outside. We do have a few little closing things that we want to take care of, a little bit of business. Thank you.
Thank you.
We send you, I can keep this stuff, right?
Oh, yeah, take everything that's in the folder and then send it all back.
Get out of my room.
What?
It's getting quieter.
There we go.
So we have Marcus Phelps here. He'd like to have
Under public comment.
under public comments, which
Which is at the end of the meeting.
list, but it is. So I guess it's not related to the alum treatment.
No,
I
it
thought I
isn't,
thought everybody would be
actually.
commenting on just
It's a
that.
very positive comment.
Okay.
Marcus Phelps, 28 Depot Street. I have a suggestion that the committee may want to consider, and that's putting up signage at locations where there are CPA-funded projects.
That's a great idea.
I've seen it in one other community, and either a free, a standing sign or a banner, whatever is considered appropriate. But right now, there's 3, I think, that would be worthwhile
Marcus.
displayed.
Yes.
What?
Oh,
Maybe
no,
not so
that,
much. No, yeah, maybe
I'll
not so
take
much.
that. Doug,
That's-
yes, it is.
that's
Michelle.
Bring it here.
Can I just-
No, come on, I gotta, that's for me to do. Thank you, sir. I'm sure she's just out there talking, yeah. I know she hasn't left because she's with me, so.
Thank you all again.
Thanks, Doug. Okay, so Mark's
So,
talking about some signage.
one is the Moore House, which was funded with the CPA money, replacing the roof.
It looks very nice.
And that's still, I think, current enough that it would be interesting to see a sign there. Obviously, the Powder Mill School Playground, which may or may not be open right now, but that's another great location that
Well, you got
public
2
can
projects
see.
together there and 2 projects together at the Moore House.
Right.
So you can
And,
put double signage, that saves us money.
North Pond purchase,
Well, we are putting up a sign.
but
You're
we
gonna
should
need more than
say,
one.
we should say funded by the Community Preservation Act.
It's gonna be,
That
well,
way the public gets to see where their money is going.
right. I think on the sign it says all the funding sources.
That's another one too.
If there's some, you decide
that,
whether it's in a year, within a year, or whatever. But if you could start doing that kind of thing.
So
it would
maybe
be
that's
kinda
not,
cool.
see, it
That doesn't say Southwick.
doesn't say, it does say Southwood
Yeah,
Road,
Southwood
but
Coun-
doesn't say CPC, which would be
No.
nice, so a separate sign.
CPA.
CPA,
Community
Community Preservation Act.
Funds.
Yeah,
Okay?
so a separate sign for that. Very good, Marcus.
Thank
I
you.
like the
Really
idea.
you controlled the crowd tonight. It was
Well, I don't think it was a hard thing. They were all on the same side,
Yeah.
so.
When you agree with everybody, everybody's happy.
Yeah. It's a happy, joy night.
That doesn't always happen.
We've had others different.
Not so.
My first Conservation Commission meeting was a crowd, an angry mob in the auditorium.
Auditorium.
That was my introduction to, hey, welcome to town.
Thank you, Marcus.
Thank you.
That was all about treating the weeds, so. All right.
Everybody thinks you have a surplus of money and everybody wants everything funded. It can't always happen that way.
Right.
And when it's expensive, it shouldn't. That's my opinion.
Well, it depends, and it's.
It does depend.
Yeah, and it's not always just up to us. What we do, or what I think we should be doing, is looking at the project, see if it fits the criteria, which we have the selection criteria for. And if it fits the criteria, yay or nay, and then the voters of the town, that's what we're doing, is bringing it to them to decide. We're not deciding on the project. I mean, I put projects forward that I didn't actually believe in myself. I said, let the townspeople decide, because it fits the criteria. And they're the people who are putting the money in the pot. And they're the ones who are voting to put their money in the pot, time and time again. So I think they're doing that in good faith to see that they have the choice and the power to do with their money what they wish. So I believe that's our role here, is looking at it that way, and hopefully that's the way it continues.
How long have you been acting chair?
Almost a year. Well, no, since the summer, right?
Oh,
June.
June?
Yep.
Yeah.
Since June, but this is the first meeting. We don't need to meet too often. When there's a project that comes up, or any other business that we need to take care of every year, we have to go through an open meeting for the public to see expenditures, things like that. And that's part of the CPA legislative, she's coming back for it. Anyway, she'll be missing it. I'll tell her Doug took it.
So we do have some, can I just?
Yes.
We do have some money in the housing, and I've been talking to some of the veterans in town. So I was wondering if anybody, we're all interested in to do something with the housing for the veterans. If anybody got any thoughts about that, or.
I think that sounds like a wonderful idea.
I've talked to several.
Yeah, you got the biggest pot.
I know.
And
there's really nothing in town for veterans.
Right.
Well, Dave said.
I know there is, but I'm talking like to come in and talk to somebody, like a place to go in and.
And I know he's talked about the old library.
Yeah. There's another one too.
utilize that.
He just did a community.
He did it in
Agawam.
Agawam.
Is it in Agawam?
Yeah, he did one in Agawam.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking Southwick, there's a lot of veterans here.
That'd be a great use, I think.
I mean, my dad is one.
Would this just be for veteran services, or would this be veterans housing?
Both, actually. If we could get it both in the same unit. So like one for the veterans housing, and then come in, and part of it would be like an office type of thing.
What have other communities done in this line?
They have done it, because Dave Sutton just did one in Agawam.
No, what do they do?
Oh, what do they do?
Yeah.
They do a lot of services, that's what they're
Well,
doing
I
for
mean,
veterans.
we're really not a
I know.
service
No, I know we're not,
organization.
but I'm thinking about housing for veterans, because I'm on the housing actually, and we get a lot of people. Like veterans are up almost at the top, and there's really not a place.
Yeah, but what of other communities using CPA funding? What have they done in this line? Because
I don't know, I can find out though, because.
typically,
Yeah.
you're not the first person,
Right, right.
coming up with the idea.
Where do they go now that there's no services here for them? Just
They go out of town. Springfield, Agawam, yeah.
VA.
The VA, yeah,
and
my
the-
dad goes to the VA. Bond Street in Springfield. There's one up in, what is it, Greenfield? What's the one up in there? It's toward Greenfield.
Well, with the CPA funds, the best you could offer would be housing.
Right.
Potentially with an office that could be used.
Right.
For
Correct.
veterans.
Services. Correct.
Can
What
you
type
use
of
that money to pay
veteran
salaries? Say you
housing
had
do they have? I know they have the soldiers home, but
You can't use
on
it for
other
that, can
levels
you?
or.
There,
To have like
there's
an
one up in,
administrator or
I think
something,
it's
an advocate.
Norrington.
You have administrative
near
fees, but it's
Northampton,
only
and I
just
can't
for
remember
this
the name of
board.
it.
Oh, the Leeds veterans.
Leeds, the veterans, yeah, and they have Bond Street, but that's mostly medical facility.
I was gonna say, are they like for disabled veterans usually?
No, it's all veterans.
They don't necessarily have to have physical problems or
Nope.
anything.
Nope, all veterans. My dad is one, that's why I know where all these places are, I take them all the time to.
Yeah.
You know, but now, which is good, they're outsourcing their medical. Where before they had to go to wait in line forever to get in to see some doctor. So now he can go out, he's gone to he's got cardiac problems, so that he can go outsource.
Well, I would definitely encourage you to continue working on that line. It sounds like a
Okay.
great idea.
So I'm gonna probably talk to Dave Sutton and a couple other guys I know, and I'll see what we can.
But also, when you're doing that, look at the criteria.
Yes, I will. They'll
and-
have
and-
them do
and
it. yeah.
Align that.
Right, correct.
Okay. Anybody else? And take a motion for adjournment? Anybody's ready? Anybody
I
wanna go
will
home?
make the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good night, everyone. Thank you for coming.
Nice
Thank
meeting
you.
everybody.
Nice to meet all of you.
Good job on your first day, Beth.
Yes.
There was one thing that Carl did bring up. He said that we need to do a public meeting. Remember, we did that
Right,
back
that's what I was
October?
just saying.
That, okay.
Yeah, we do need to do that once a year. We have to have a public meeting
I don't
once a
think
year.
we had one at all last year.
I don't think so. I know. I was waiting for
We
it,
were
but it
in the
never.
public a lot, though.
Yeah,
Yes.
but it has to address certain things.
I was like, myself in the corner, you know?